Hey there everybody, I've been wanting to do a video on triads for a long time. Specifically there's an interesting way to practice triads across the neck that when I came up with it was sort of an epiphany, but I'm sure other people do it. Basically what I'm doing is I'm moving through a progression in a linear way through a group of triads. So we're going to keep this one simple. We're just going to use G, C, and D. And then we're going to continue through that pattern up the neck on each set of 3 adjacent strings. So for instance, on the 4th, 5th, and 6th string, it's going to look like this. We got G, C, D, G, C, D, G, C, D, G. Okay, then we're going to go back down, and we're going to use the 5th, 4th, and 3rd strings. So the first one is going to be this open G position triad. Then we have C here, D, G, C, D, G, C, D, G. Okay, then we're going to go back and we're going to do the 4th, 3rd, and 2nd string open. That's going to be our open G triad. Then we have C here, D, G, C, D, G, C, D, G. Then we can continue on in the next octave. G, C, D, G. Okay, then we're going to go back down. This time we're going to start in 3rd position with this first inversion G triad, so that's notes B, D, and G. Then we have this C, D, G, C, D, G, C, D, G. So let's look at it from the beginning. G, C, D, G, 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 G, C, D, G. So it's definitely not, a flashy or a sexy thing to practice, but as far as like soloing and stuff goes, knowing your different triads and inversions across the neck is, in my opinion, much more effective than knowing all the different scales and whatnot, because you get a lot more musical mileage out of focusing on chord tones than you do on scale tones. So I kind of breezed through that. So let's kind of go through it a little slower and look at the individual notes for those of you that aren't as familiar with the triads. So to start off with, we're going to be down here on 3rd fret of the low E string, 2nd fret of the A string, and then the open D string. That gives us the notes G, B, and D, which is a root position G triad. Okay, and then my closest one to that's a C triad, would be this 2nd inversion C triad. So that's the notes G, C, and E. That's a 2nd inversion triad because the G, which is the 5th of the C triad, is in the bass. A root position C triad would have been these notes, C, E, and G. But we're just taking that G note, that fifth, and instead of putting it as the highest note, we're putting it as the lowest note. So we have G, second inversion C, and then to make that a D triad, we just move it up 2 frets. And that's a second inversion D triad with the notes A, D, and F sharp. So we have G, second inversion C, second inversion D. Okay, and then we're going to go to this, which is a first inversion G triad, and that's the notes B, D, and G. So that's the 7th fret of the low E string, the 5th fret of the A string, and then the 5th fret of the D string. 7, 5, 5. Okay, then the next one is going to be this root position C triad, which is the notes C, E, and G at the 8th, 7th, and 5th fret. Okay, and then we're going to move that up 2 frets. That's going to give us a root position D triad. Okay, and then our next one, we're going to do a second inversion G triad. So that's going to be a G triad with a D in the bass. So it's going to kind of look like your cowboy E chord, except we're going to be playing it up here, and we're not using any open strings, obviously. So we have the D note, the 10th fret, the G note, the 10th fret, and then the B note at the 9th fret. D, G, B. Okay, and then we're going to go to this first inversion C triad. First inversion again means that the 3rd of the triad is in the bass. So in this case it would be E. A root position C triad is C, E, and G. That's the 1, 3, and 5. Now we have the E in the bass, which is the 3rd, which means this is the first inversion. So we have E at the 12th fret, G at the 10th fret of the 5th string, and then C at the 10th fret of the 4th string. Alright. Okay, so to make that a D, you guessed it, we're going to move that up 2 frets. Okay, and then you probably guessed that one too. That's our root position G triad. So that's G at the 15th, B at the 14th, and D at the 12th fret. So that's the basic pattern. So we're going to continue that on the 5th, 4th, and 3rd strings, so the A, D, and G strings. So the first one is going to look like this. That's an open first inversion G triad. So that's the notes B, D, G. So that's our 1 chord, because we're just playing 1, 4, 5 in the key of G, G, C, D, 1, 4, 5. Okay, so that's the first one. The second one is going to be our root position C triad. Then move all those notes up 2 frets and we get a root position D triad. Okay, so that's our first 3. All right, then we're going to be on a second inversion G triad. So that's the notes D, G, and B at the 5th, 5th, and 4th fret on the A, D, and G string respectively. Okay, then we're going to be on this C triad. It's a C with the E in the bass, which again is the 3rd, so that's a first inversion triad. Move that up 2 frets, which gives you a first inversion D triad. And then we're going to be on this root position G triad, which is going to be G, B, and D at the 10th, 9th, and 7th frets. Okay, so that's G. Where's our next C? That's going to be right here. Second inversion C triad, so that's going to be 10, 10, and 9. G, C, up 2 frets to get our D. Okay, and then we're going to be an octave higher than where we started. So that's going to be the B, D, and G note. All right, so that's the second set of strings. Now let's do the third set of strings. The third set of strings, of course, is going to be our D, G, and B string. So to start off, we're going to do those 3 strings open because that's going to be our first G triad that's available on those 3 adjacent strings. So again, that's just the open D, open G, open B. Okay, and then the next one is going to be this first inversion C triad, which is the notes E, G, C. You probably recognize that from the C chord. We're just playing a part of that C chord, but instead of starting from here, we're starting from here. Okay, and then if we shift all that up 2 frets, we end up with F sharp, A, and D. So that's our D triad. So we have G, C, D. Okay, our next set of triads, we have G root position here. Just bar at the 5th fret, and we have second inversion C, second inversion D up 2 frets higher. Okay, and then first inversion G. So that's the notes B, D, G at the 7th, 9th, and 8th frets. Okay. Our next chord is going to look like this. It's a root position C at the 10th, 9th, and 8th frets. Okay, we're going to move that up 2 frets to get our D. Alright, and then we're going to go up here an octave higher than where we started. And we're going to actually continue beyond the octave on this one because there's a couple more useful shapes. So we have G, C, D, G. So slowly that's barred at the 12th fret. And then 14, 12, 13, which is E, G, and C. So it's a first inversion C triad. First inversion D triad, 2 frets higher. Okay, and then way up here we have this root position G triad, which is going to be the 17th, 16th, and 15th fret. Okay. All right. Closing in on it. So we're on our final set of strings now. The first, second, and third strings. There's not another set of 3 below that. So we're just going to start down here, finish this up. So we have a first inversion G triad at the B, D, and G note. That's the 4th, 3rd, and 3rd frets. Okay, and then we're going to be on a root position C, C, E, and G, 5th, 5th, and 3rd. Move that up 2 frets, and we have root position D. Alright. Next, we're going to be on a second inversion G triad. So that's a G with a D as the lowest note. So that's the D, G, B note. Okay, and then we're going to be on a first inversion C triad because that's the next closest one. So we have E, G, C. Move that up, you have D triad, inverted D triad. And then finally, we're going to do this last guy here, which would be the 12th fret, 12th fret, 10th fret, which would be a root position G triad. Actually, no, that's not the last one. We have a couple more. We have a C here. It's a second inversion C, second inversion D. And then finally, the actual last one which is an octave higher than where we started. So that's going to be the B, D, and G notes. So the basic exercise is to take a chord sequence and practice close triads vertically across the strings. And this is probably the simplest sort of permutation of that exercise, because we're using simple chords and we're using basic closed triads. That's it, folks. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. I'm Harvey signing off.